Welcome back to the Whispers of the Dark, where our nighttime ritual series drags you deeper into the shadows of the unknown. We've stared into the cursed mirror of Black Hollow, summoning Mary Worth's vengeful spirit. We've dared to call Bloody Mary in the haunted bathrooms of Salem. But tonight, we're stepping into something darker, a ritual that's not just a game, but a fight to survive until dawn. It's called the Midnight Game, and it's played in the dead of night in a small town called Ashwood, Ohio. They say it invites a shadow into your home, a figure known only as the Midnight Man. Once you open that door, there's no closing it. Ashwood, Ohio is a nowhere town, the kind of place where time feels stuck. Strip malls line the main road, cornfields stretch beyond the horizon, and every house looks like it was built from the same blueprint. Kids grow up dreaming of anywhere but here. But beneath the sleepy surface, there's a story the locals bury deep. Back in 1973, 5 teens vanished from a house on Maple Street. The police combed the place for weeks, but found no bodies, no signs of a break-in. Just a circle of salt on the floor, a melted candle, and a name scratched into the wood, Midnight Man. The house was boarded up, the case went cold, and the town moved on. But the kids of Ashwood never forgot. They passed down the rules of the Midnight Game like a secret handshake, daring each other to play. Most laugh it off, some don't. And those who play, they come back changed, if they come back at all. Noah was 17, a senior at Ashwood High with a restless edge. He'd moved from Chicago 6 months ago after his dad lost his job, and he hated everything about Ashwood. The suffocating small-town gossip, the way everyone stared at the new kid, the endless gray skies. He kept to himself, earbuds in, sketching in a notebook he never showed anyone. But then he met Riley, a girl with jet black hair, a pentagram necklace, and a smirk that said she didn't care what anyone thought. Riley ran with a tight crew. Tyler, her best friend, a sarcastic skater with a knack for trouble, and Grace, the quiet artist, who always seemed to be watching, like she knew something the rest didn't. They were the kind of group that hung out in abandoned lots, swapping ghost stories and sneaking beers. One Friday night, with nothing better to do, they piled into Riley's house, an old Victorian on the edge of town. The place was a maze of creaky floors, peeling wallpaper, and shadowed corners that seemed to swallow the light. Riley flopped onto the couch, pulling out a tattered notebook she called her Book of Rituals. Her eyes sparkled. Then you open the door, blow out the candle, and close it. That's the invitation. You've just let the Midnight Man into your home. For the next 3 hours, until 6:33 a.m., you have to keep moving through the house, carrying a lit candle and a handful of salt. If your candle goes out, you've got 10 seconds to relight it. If you can't, you draw a salt circle around yourself and stay put until dawn. But there are rules you can't break. Don't fall asleep, don't stay in one place too long, don't use electric lights, and whatever you do, don't let the Midnight Man catch you. They say he's a tall, faceless shadow, his presence marked by a cold so deep it burns your bones. If he gets too close, you'll hear your name whispered in a voice that isn't human. Noah laughed it off at first. Sounds like a spooky scavenger hunt, he said, but Riley's stare made his stomach twist. Grace pulled her knees to her chest, muttering, "My cousin played it once, he doesn't talk about it." Tyler, already digging for a lighter, waved her off. "Come on, Grace, don't be a buzzkill." They agreed to play, more out of boredom than belief. As midnight passed, the house grew quieter, the usual hum of the world fading away. By 3:30 a.m., they were gathered in the foyer, the air thick with tension. Noah wrote his name, Noah James Carter, on a scrap of paper, his hands steadier than he felt. Riley pricked his finger with a needle, and he watched the blood bloom red against the white. They each prepared their papers, placed them by the front door, and lit their candles. Riley counted the knocks, her voice steady. 1, 2, 3. At the 22nd knock, the clock chimed 3:33. Noah opened the door, the night air rushing in, cold and sharp. He blew out the candle, slammed the door shut, and the house plunged into darkness. They lit their candles again, the tiny flames casting long, jittery shadows on the walls. "Now what?" Tyler whispered. Riley's voice was tight. "Now we move." The first hour was almost fun, like a game of hide and seek. They wandered through the house, giggling nervously, clutching their candles and salt. Tyler made dumb jokes about the midnight man showing up in skinny jeans. Grace trailed behind, her eyes darting to every corner. Noah felt silly, but the house seemed different. The shadows were too thick and the silence too heavy. Then it started. A draft, cold and sudden, brushed Noah's neck. His candle flickered, nearly going out. "Guys," he said, "did anyone open a window?" They shook their heads, their faces pale in the candlelight. The temperature dropped, Noah's breath visible in the air. He glanced at the living room doorway and saw something, a shape, tall and wrong, melting into the dark. His heart lurched. "Keep moving," Riley hissed, her voice shaking. The second hour was worse. Their candles kept flickering, forcing them to fumble with lighters. Tyler's went out completely, and he scrambled to pour a salt circle, cursing under his breath as he sat inside it, his bravado gone. "This is messed up," he muttered. Grace's candle dimmed, and she whispered, "He's here." Noah followed her gaze to the staircase, where the darkness seemed to pulse, like it was breathing. He felt a cold so sharp it stung his skin, a pressure on his chest, like someone was standing inches away. Footsteps echoed from upstairs, slow and deliberate, but they were all downstairs. Riley's candle snuffed out and she dropped her lighter in panic. "He's close," she choked. Noah relit her candle just as a shadow loomed behind her, faceless, towering, its edges blurring into the dark. "Run!" Riley screamed. They bolted, splitting up in blind terror. Noah ducked into a closet, his candle a faint glow, wax dripping onto his hand. He clutched the salt, his breath ragged. The cold pressed against the door, seeping through the cracks. A voice, not Riley's, not Tyler's, not anything human, whispered, "Noah, I see you." His candle flickered, and he held his breath, willing it to stay lit. In the distance, Grace screamed, a sound that cut off abruptly. Tyler's voice called out, panicked, then went silent. Noah's mind raced. Were they okay? Was this real? The cold grew unbearable, like needles in his skin. He poured a salt circle around himself, hands shaking, and sat frozen, praying for dawn. The final hour was a blur of fear. Noah left the closet, creeping through the house, his candle nearly gone. He found Riley in the kitchen, curled against the wall, her candle a stub. "I saw him," she whispered, her eyes glassy. "He's not human." Tyler was still in his salt circle in the dining room, staring blankly, muttering, "It's not over." Grace was nowhere. Noah's candle went out, and he relit it with his last match, his fingers numb. The footsteps were closer now, circling the house, stopping just out of sight. Every shadow seemed to move, and every creak felt like a threat. Noah's name echoed again, louder from the attic. He wanted to run, but the rules kept him moving, stumbling through the dark. At 6:33 a.m., the game ended. The first light of dawn crept through the windows, and the house felt empty. Noah collapsed in the foyer, his candle a puddle of wax. Riley staggered in, pale and trembling. Tyler crawled out of his salt circle, eyes hollow. Grace was gone. They searched the house, calling her name, but found only her candle in the attic, snuffed out, surrounded by scratches in the floor that spelled mine. The police came but found no trace of Grace. The case was ruled a runaway, but the kids knew better. Riley burned her notebook, swearing she'd never touch a ritual again. Tyler stopped skating, stopped talking, his laughter replaced by silence. Noah left Ashwood a month later, but he never slept without a light on. He still feels the cold sometimes, like a shadow standing just beyond his vision, waiting. The kids in Ashwood still whisper about the midnight game, daring each other to play. Some say the Midnight Man never leaves once you invite him in. That house on Maple Street sits empty, its windows boarded up. But at 3:33 a.m., neighbors hear knocking, 22 times, slow and steady. If you're brave enough to look, you might see a candle flicker in the window before it goes out. So, have you ever heard of the midnight game? Maybe you've played a ritual like this, tempting fate in the dark, or felt a shadow watching you, a cold you couldn't explain. Drop your creepiest stories in the comments below. I'll read the scariest one in our next Nighttime Rituals video. If you're hooked on these chilling tales, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Our next ritual is going to be even darker, so brace yourself. Until then, keep your candles lit, because the Midnight Man might be closer than you think.